These computers take ages to boot up. Oh, are you? Oh, okay.
Definitely a wonderful.
Yeah.
So you're going to be there judging.
Oh, I
have no idea. Yeah, but you know, they've got their own. I saw that. I think that's what I wanted.
Oh, really? What does that mean? Plug it into a screen somewhere and get a new one.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We are now live streaming, and so we can start our meeting. We will start with a karakia, and we're going to do that all together. It's in our agenda on page 4.
Oh, should we stand?
Should we stand?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I can't read it.
No, I can't see him.
Whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mākina kina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki taia. E he ake ana te atakora, he teo, he huka, he honu, ti he mōrero.
We should probably do it in English as well.
So just a reminder for everybody that this morning's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the board's YouTube channel as well. So the link, if you want to read that afterwards, is on the agenda. So welcome to any members who are watching, any members of the public who are watching the live stream, and also welcome to local members of our community who are present at today's meeting. Welcome to our board members and welcome to staff here. Just a reminder that any criticism or disrespect of elected members and or staff during any of our public forums or any of our conversations, and we'll need to pause at that point and shift the conversation away from that kind of content. Before we go any further, I have received an apology for absence from Howard meeting. So if I can have a mover and a seconder for Howard's apology.
Move it.
Moved by Tyrone, seconded by Lana. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? No abstentions? The apology is accepted. Also, just a reminder to all board members, if they wish to declare an interest in any item on the agenda this morning, and given the length of the agenda, it should be relatively simple to identify whether there are any. But also a reminder that if during the course of the meeting one springs to mind, please feel free to recite at that point. We can make sure that I'm taking it that there are none. Excellent. So we move to item 3, which is the confirmation of the previous minutes. And I'll take those as read. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder.
Move that.
Yeah, moved by Lynn.
Second, yep.
Seconded by Tyrone. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Minutes are moved.
Good minutes.
So we will now move to, excuse me, our public forum to draw our whānui. And we have 5 minutes each for our public forum presentations this morning. And I would like to welcome Victoria Andrews speaking on behalf of the Akaroa Civic Trust.
Thank you. Well, it's good to have you in Akaroa. We don't get to see you very often.
Great to be here.
The Civic Trust would just like to bring a couple of items to your attention. And we really appreciate being invited to participate in the 2 workshops put on by Christchurch, New Zealand regarding the destination management plan. So the emphasis has been on sustainable and regenerative tourism from community members, and regenerative tourism means that it gives back more than it takes to communities, to the environment, and to ecosystems. So we hope that remains an emphasis of the proposal. And back in February 2002, the Ministry for Business, Innovation and Employment gave Christchurch, New Zealand $400,000 to develop 2 plans, one for the city and surrounding areas, and the other for Banks Peninsula. So it was a bit odd that it was delayed until this late date, but they are getting well into it. And at the last workshop we had with the Akaroa and Bays Forum, which was about a week ago, 2 representatives came over from Christchurch, New Zealand, and gave an overview. And Harry Stronach asked a very interesting question. He said, what proportion of the $400,000 was being allocated towards Banks Peninsula? And the response was the majority, which we felt, well, that would be interesting to see the outcome. So far, they have come up with the target audience of being explorers, families, and sophisticated explorers, which is fine. We're all, I think, relatively pleased by that. And their tentative schedule is that there will be an update to the community board, public consultation. There'll be a period where there'll be some feedback within the community, I think. And then the community board will be asked for approval for the plan, and then it goes to Christchurch, New Zealand to sign off in June, which is really a very tight time frame. So I wish them luck on that. And then on February 28th, they sent out an email with the emphasis of what they're looking at for Banks Peninsula. And I'd have to say, reading through it, it's everything that we've been saying for years. So again, I hope they come up with something a little more definitive. And as they used to say in the 1980s, one has to wonder if it's value for money, but remains to be seen. So the next item is really something that we've been emphasizing for some time, the need to deal with the Britomart Memorial in a very respectful manner, which is inclusive of a landscape plan, which hopefully the community board will support in its annual plan submission coming up. The Civic Trust will feature that as the core of our submission to the council because it needs to balance out hand in hand with Takapuneki. They're 2 separate sites, but they are joined by history. And since both historic reserves will likely feature in the destination management plan and the history of New Zealand will soon be taught in schools, it's critical that the Britomart Memorial be dealt with in an appropriate manner. And I went out to Takapuneki a week or so ago, and I was very pleased to see a large interpretive sign, which I photographed. And they have dealt with the landscape plan in the context of that environment. So the work has already started in many respects. What needs to be done is the access from Beach Road and a few other important items, but that's up to the council. But I was pleased to see the interpretive sign. I just was walking along Beach Road, and the lighthouse was just stunning the other day. And I have to compliment the council on effectively stabilizing that wall, which was slumping and subsiding to a very significant degree. They've done a really good job. It's not quite finished. And I had a long conversation with Kevin Templeton yesterday. And he said that what they want to do, their next project, is to strip all the paint off the lighthouse because the primer had not been put on properly years ago. They're going to take it back to the bare wood and then repaint it in an appropriate manner. So it would be really nice to acknowledge the hard work the Lighthouse Society has put in over a period of, I don't know, 30, 35, 40 years, when that comes together. And I just wanted you to be aware of that because the lighthouse is a very, very significant historic structure, and it deserves more focus, I think, within the council. So, and the other thing I'd comment on, you know, we have a number of outstanding organizations and people on Banks Peninsula who've received numerous civic awards, but those civic awards are private. They're not open to members of the public, and all those award ceremonies are held in town. We don't get to participate. And at some stage, it'd be really nice if we as a community can come together and acknowledge those contributions which help maintain our well-being overall. That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No bus or boat was mentioned.
Pardon?
No bus or boat was mentioned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have time for just quick questions?
Yep.
So a landscape plan for Britomart and Takapaniki would be a good thing, right, from your point of view?
I would strongly urge it, and have been, the Civic Trust has been for years. We made it a highlight of our submission a year or two ago, and then we had the talk by historian John Wilson about the Britomart Memorial for Heritage Week.
Yep.
And at that event, Rick Tainui was there, and he gave it his full support.
Yes.
And he said he was ashamed by the poor condition of the Britomart Memorial and how it's been allowed to deteriorate. They are two separate sites, but it tells the story. Those two sites tell the story of the founding of Aotearoa, New Zealand. It's incredibly important. And I have to say that after all the funding that has gone into the CBD, I think it's about time a few crumbs are spent on the Britomart Memorial. And it wouldn't take that much. At least get the ball rolling. It needs adequate public access and disabled access, and it needs appropriate interpretation. And I would say that the Ian Bowman conservation plan from over 20 years ago needs to be looked at again and updated. I'm concerned about slumping of that whole site. And I would say a geotechnical report would be in order.
Yeah.
But I'm an amateur, I don't know.
This could start that process, right?
Yeah.
It would be good to start sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, Victoria. Thank you.
Just on the civic awards, there were four people from Banks, 4 groups from Banks Peninsula that got civic awards at the
I
last
didn't even, you
ones.
see, we don't even know that.
Yeah,
It's poor.
massively outperformed, like, you know, massively overrepresented.
Well,
Yeah,
it's poor communication, I hate, on the part of the council, in my view, in that we don't know these things. They're good news stories and we just don't know.
well, I'm on the committee this year, so
Oh, good.
hopefully I can.
Good, I might get more than a day's notice or something.
It could be worth asking the question of whether we can open that event up to be a public event, given that we've moved into different restrictions for public events than we were operating under last month.
Yeah, and at least some acknowledgement within their own communities
Yeah.
would be appreciated.
We'll put them in your newsletter.
Okay, thank you again, Victoria. We're now moving on to a report from Ted Robinson regarding state of the Stanley Reserve. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, would you like us to introduce ourselves as a board? Because I know Victoria is very familiar with us because she's been to visit several times, but we could do a very quick round of introductions so we know who we all are.
Let's do it.
Right.
Tyrone Fields, Christchurch City Councillor.
Nigel Harrison, representative for Akaroa Bays.
I'm the one of Swindells. I represent the
Yeah,
Valley.
sorry, just a wee bit hard of hearing. But, yeah, my name's Ted Robinson. I'm a ratepayer over at Wainui, have been for some time. My main concern is the Stanley Reserve toilets. I built these in the 1980s, I suppose it was, with volunteer labour. We spent quite a bit of time. And I'll just read through this submission that I've got here. The toilets are used by hundreds of people during when they come over, and they spend a lot of time in Wainui because the beach there was preferable to Akaroa. Some of the volunteers, there was a toilet block on the beachfront at that stage, which was just a holding tank with a couple of holes where you squat over type of thing. That wasn't satisfactory as far as I was concerned, so that's why I constructed the toilet block in the reserve. City Council took over from Banks Peninsula Council on the understanding that they would look after the toilets. But it's leaves a lot to be desired. I spoke to one of the council guys that was there sitting in a vehicle. I said, well, what's your job? Do you look after the toilets? And I said, well, what about the downpipes and spouting and everything that's in shocking condition? Do you do something about? Oh no, we're not allowed to touch them. I said, well, do you pass that on to council? No, we're not allowed to tell them about it. So yeah, as I say, I spent quite a bit of time on it. Toilets are frequented by hundreds of people, and the council get millions of dollars in rates from the residents of Wainui. Nothing comes back into Wainui. There's no sewage, there's no rubbish collection. The roads are in a shocking mess. When we complained to the council, nothing was done. So I've got a list here of requirements just regarding the actual toilet block. We'd have to remove the cycling gates that were fitted for stock raising in the reserve. This was years ago, and those gates are still there. Replace with suitable doors, tile the concrete floors, and tile the walls up to at least the dado height, which is about 4 foot high. Replace the toilets and systems, line the ceilings and paint the interiors down to the dado height. Ensure central lighting works. Doesn't at the moment. You go into the toilets, it's just no lighting whatsoever. There is power there. Replace the downpipes, ensure the spouting is clean. Replace the downpipes to the existing drain. Replace concrete slab over the septic tank that's broken at the moment. Extend the septic tank vent pipe to above the roof. Ensure that septic tank is clean and periodically replaced if required. Ensure that toilets are cleaned as required. Look at extending it for a paraplegic toilet. A plan that I have prepared or will present you shortly. This would require moving some of the existing fencing and trees for the paraplegic toilet. Replace the building paper and iron roof with a marine grade colour steel. Ensure that there is ample water continually. My submission that I'll hand through. There's a photograph here of the number of people that frequent Wainui.
We are steering the time table, but you may want to have to finish off, and then I believe Tyrone has a question.
Yeah, well, I would like to know when the septic tank was cleaned last. How often is it cleaned? Because to have it functioning properly, it's got to be maintained. And I don't believe that septic tank's been maintained since the City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson, for coming to see us. You might not remember, but you and I had a phone conversation about the Wainui toilets a number of months ago, where we talked about that. I'm actually coming over to Wainui on Saturday to meet the Residents Association to have a look at that whole block and scope out some of the issues there. So just to get a sense of it. So I realise that's not a question, so I'll ask a question. Will you be attending?
Yes, I will. Yeah. Absolutely.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll see you then.
I visited on site and I met you as well, and with Nikki, your president.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we looked around quite a few facilities and they were not in good condition. I think I have shared some photos with the board members as well.
Yeah.
So I think it is about time to do something about those blocks.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
clean,
Kieran,
sooner
just
the better.
from my-
Just quickly, you were talking to someone from the council. Were they actually doing something, doing some maintenance work on the toilets? Or they were just going by?
The chap I was talking to was sitting in the car, filling in time, obviously.
Right, but I guess where I'm going is there some sort of maintenance being done at the moment? So they do recognise a need for some maintenance, or they just, it's not been touched for a long time?
Well,
It hasn't.
Touched.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you very much. Just a note for us in our agenda, we have it as the Stanley Reserve toilets, so it's the Stanberry
Oh,
Reserve toilets. And also, yeah, so thanks for coming in and raising that issue in this forum. It's excellent to hear that
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Tyrone will be out there.
Thank
And
you.
thanks for the work you did in establishing the facilities.
Yes.
Right, I was trying to work out where the toilets were in the Stanley Reserve. I'm on that, see?
So we do have some additional information around the assessment of that facility and also around the schedule for facility renewal. So
Okay.
we should have that in our emails if we've missed it. So we now have Kerry coming to speak to us on Akaroa Heartlands.
No, Kerry's not here.
Not yet.
No.
So we now have Kath coming to speak to us, Robinson's Bay resident around the Akaroa wastewater project and the land in Sawmill Road in Robinson's Bay. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Reid and Brian and I reside on a 30-hectare block of land next door to the planned Akaroa wastewater beneficial reuse site in Sawmill Road in Robinson's Bay. I served on the Akaroa wastewater working party as a Robinson's Bay alternate member for its duration of approximately 4 years, or there was a recess in the middle. If council has surplus land that may not be required immediately for the wastewater project, specifically the land behind Pavitt Cottage, then I would very much like to see this area developed as a community garden, an orchard or food forest. I understand that options for any community use of the land in the lower reaches of the wastewater site in Robinson's Bay would be considered when the project is completed. However, I'm presenting my idea now as I'm aware that an alternative option has been repeatedly presented to the community board, yet it is early days as the resource consenting process is not yet underway. There are over 30 community gardens in Canterbury of varying sizes, so there are many models available to give a template for how one could be developed in Robinson's Bay. The general advice is that it starts small and grows slowly over time. Our own experience has shown that fruit trees do well in Robinson's Bay, also citrus. This will be a wonderful resource for the Harbour Basin community and would give some food resilience in these times of changing climate, with the possibility of road closures as we've seen recently in the North Island. Currently, all our supermarket vegetables are trucked in. The more we can produce locally, the better and healthier for us all, with low food miles and the added benefit of providing a sense of community achievement. A thriving and successful Akaroa farmers market is testimony to the appeal of farm fresh, locally grown vegetables. Perhaps the schools could be included in the planning and the harvest. Also, the aged care residents at the health hub could be called on for advice. I see the possibility of a small shed and a picnic table being built where visitors and workers can sit and share ideas, rather like the allotments that are popular in Britain, offering social interaction and supporting community spirit. This is one idea for the use of this land, and there may well be others forthcoming in time. In the interests of fairness, I would expect the council to call for expressions of interest from the wider community so all options can be considered. The community reference group advised that improvements to the site could deliver multiple benefits to communities. thank you for giving me the opportunity to put forward my view.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions around the table level?
No,
Sorry.
Oh.
Byron got his hand up.
No. Is he? You go.
No. That's all right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll go. There's confusion.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Kath, for coming
Yeah.
to see us.
Yeah.
So a community garden, I mean, that wouldn't be inconsistent with any other use for that land behind
No,
Pavot
in
Cottage
fact-
there, really, would it?
In fact, I think it's very compatible with one of the ideas on the council site map, which shows that an area of trees could be planted for timber harvesting to be used for some Robinson's Bay need in the future, rather like the macrocarpas that were growing round near the wharf were used to replace the timbers on Robinson's Bay Wharf. It was something that happened years ago, and it only came to light when the wharf, was damaged. So I'm pretty sure, I haven't got it in front of me, but on the site plan, it does show that an area can be used for that. Chris knows about it. Chris was on the community forum. So to have, trees growing for Robinson's Bay future use for timber, to have perhaps heritage trees. There are just a very small number of heritage apple trees still growing on Sawmill Road. Maybe they could be grafted. Maybe we could get somebody to look at, how that could be developed. And the idea of a community garden, there's plenty of parking, access is easy. I just see a wonderful opportunity here to have a true community asset with all generations sharing and enjoying the environment down there. And I mean, there'd be no shortage of water if we have a drought and you just have to run a little wastewater pipe along there. I mean, I'm sure the project manager would probably think that, yeah, righto. But, there's big possibilities. I see it as a truly open and community opportunity for, benefits all round.
Thank you.
Right.
Were there any other?
Just a comment, I did some community garden work in Christchurch and worked some in Germany. It's a really good project.
Yes.
Christchurch is few community projects around, I think New Brighton area, quite popular. There's
One
really,
in Hallswell, there's a very
Yeah.
tiny one in Hallswell. You can look over the fence. It's near at the corner there of, is it Craythorns, the big public house? And there's a driveway opposite that, there was a preschool down there, which I think is closed. And then there's a bowling club on the other, is it the bowling club on the other side on Hallswell Road? Tucked in there is a beautiful area, growing pumpkins and peas and beans when I last looked over the fence. So yeah, there's certainly possibilities. I mean, we all use seaweed off the beach to make compost. There's plenty of cow manure, sheep manure. It just seems to me ideal. Yeah.
Thanks, you. Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, do we have Kerry?
You want me to ring him?
No.
Shall I ring him?
So,
We've just done that, Nigel.
yeah.
We've rung and texted.
Okay, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is deputations by appointment. And there are none.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Similarly, with presentation of petitions, there have been no presentation of petitions, which means we move to item 7, which is our reserve committee meeting minutes. Liz, will you go and present these? Yes. There's no questions on the committee meeting minutes?
Other than we did have the one for the hour 80 domain, but they obviously haven't sent the minutes through yet. Is that correct? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there can be quite
A delay.
Delay,
Yep.
Which we obviously prefer not to be often do this. So jumping through to the end of that. Bear with me. Here we go. So that we receive the unconfirmed minutes and approve the reserve committee appointments as listed there. So I need a mover and a seconder for that, don't I? So can I have a move, please? One and Martin second. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. So then we move to the community board area report.
Which is light this month because we've had well, some staff away in terms of entering some data, but also the area report always lags a little bit behind, so it's picking up over the break period. You do have some funding in your DOE funding. Staff are working, the team are working with several organisations around potential applications. So do remember though that, do remember the fund when you're talking with community groups and organisations. It's just only a small fund, but it can be really helpful, or just, you know, a little piece that a group might be missing, or to work in partnership, to, you know, partnership with a group to make something locally happen. Liz, do you have anything in particular?
You talked about the board's getting ready to do the draft and plan submission. We need to know how you want to do that. Whether we call the submissions committee, workshop after. Well, it's only from the 10th of April to the 10th of, sorry, the 10th of March to the 10th of April. So it's in progress now. But we do have to arrange how we're going to get the in-plan submission done, because we do, that is the one thing the board does under the local government act.
Yeah.
How much time does it normally take in the past? It ranges between.
Yeah, it's quite a significant document.
Yes.
And in the past, you haven't had, the board hasn't had a submissions committee in the past, but you do have that opportunity now to.
Okay. So it's been in workshops before.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep, we can still workshop it.
The submissions committee to tidy it up after the workshop.
Yeah, so that workshop would happen in and around an existing meeting, or separate to in and around. Yeah. And when's the soonest that could happen? Because I'm just thinking sooner rather than later. So at the next meeting?
It's pretty full. It's super full. Actually, we've already bumped one off to fit something else in.
Yeah. So the meeting after that would be quite close to the.
This is 6th of April.
So it's only 4 days.
No, 11th.
11th
of April, it's a Tuesday
Oh,
after
okay.
Easter.
So yeah, so then that's after the deadline.
Should we do like a separate one in the river or something? Just
Which is why the submissions committee idea is.
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering, can you do it the other way around, where you have the submissions committee and then workshop? Seems a bit weird to do it around that
Well,
way,
you could have the submissions committee, and then what the submissions committee come up with could be shared.
with
And then
the
board would
workshop,
say, we need to talk.
and then confirm that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it may be that the submissions committee work on a plan, the board collectively agree that it's a great plan.
Yeah.
And or a great submission, and they don't need to meet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could, yeah, okay, so should we,
How many
Mine just
times
doesn't-
the submitting committee would meet? Have a meeting, it's up to,
How many times will the submissions committee meet?
Whenever a submission is due.
okay.
The purpose of the submissions committee is to be able to convene very quickly, instead of waiting for a board.
Once or twice.
Yeah, I
I'd
think
say.
it would be a good idea, that one.
so it may be that the submissions committee meet once, delegate out some things, go away with them and bring them back, finish it, push it out to the entire board.
Yep.
The entire board goes,
Yep.
this is genius, and and then send their approval and gifts to those on the submissions committee.
Understood.
And
Perfect.
start to do the work.
Yeah.
So
What was
looking
that,
at,
sorry?
It's a big help for Tyrone.
All right.
just a reminder of who was on the submissions committee.
It's in
Okay, great.
1993 as a
Yeah.
quorum. Tyrone not the member. Because he has to fund decision making process.
So is there an opportunity now for those members who would be interested in being on the submissions committee specifically for this project to indicate that in the meeting?
Or they can do it right now,
Yeah.
if they want to be
Yeah.
involved.
So I would put my hand up as wanting to be involved.
Yeah, I would.
Tessa, Nigel, anybody else?
Do you want to be geographic?
Oh, yes, a little bit of that.
Because that way cover. Yes.
We'll all be involved.
We'll all be involved.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to be if there's 3 already.
Yeah, so Asif, Nigel, Ruben, and everybody on all the members obviously across what's suggested.
Yep.
And we can determine after those meetings whether we need to meet as an entire board to thrash it out.
Which helps as well, and getting tight timeline and get all of it.
Yeah. Okay, so does that feel like enough of a plan around that? Anything else?
I have one more thing, and that today, sorry, I should have said this before, the Strengthening Communities Fund, which is your larger fund, opens today and closes on the 14th of April. So encourage your groups to make applications.
Especially trust, because we don't have a manager at the moment.
Yeah.
So it closes 14th of April.
And it closes on the 14th of April.
Okay.
And the development advisors refer staff to development advisors for assistance.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else in that area that you want to, or that anybody wants to ask any questions on? Which means we then move on to. Oh, goodness me, my bad. Can I have a move that in a second for the area report?
Do you take Terry today?
I have to go with Karen to work out who's first, but I'm going to go to Lana for moving and Nigel for sitting in the area. Thank you guys very much. All those in favour?
Aye.
Yeah. Any against? Any abstentions? No, so that is moved. We have accepted the area report, which takes us to elected members information exchange. And just a reminder before we go through our elected members exchange today that any concerns that community members may have raised for us should have been, if they haven't been, should then be reported through council service requests or through Snatching Soul, so that those issues can be managed through that process. And if that's happened and the response hasn't, the expected response hasn't happened within 6 weeks, then this is a great forum to bring it up and so that they can be followed up on through the more formal process that the board has. But in the first instance, those kinds of issues that we often have raised with board members should be channeled through the correct process, just so that they get in the system and they can be tracked in the progress, or if there isn't progress, that can also be tracked. So with that in mind, if we jump into members exchange, and I'm going to start right in the middle with Lynn for Wairewa.
Kia ora, thank you. Okay, so our ET Reserve Committee meeting went well. It was great to catch up with the team there. And hopefully they'll send through their minutes soon. So we've got a question from them that I would also like to follow up with: Coronation Library progress. So if we could put that towards a staff member who would be able to give us an update about when the starting of any development will be there.
It's on budget for this year, though.
It
as I
is.
understand it.
It is. It's like a starting date, or just any info. It's been a long time since we've been able to give the community any information other than it's starting soon.
Is that something that we could get an update on and include in our newsletter?
Yeah.
Because that would be, there's definitely people wanting to know, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, from all areas. That would be.
It's due to start in March, sorry.
Oh,
Okay. We prepared to give all information and got the team.
sure. Oh, because of the tender process. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm speak to me when you're done.
Okay, great, that's fine. Just wanted to, I knew that there was progress on the process. I just wanted to know where we were at. Thank you. And just a query, I guess this could be a CSR, but just double checking the maintenance behind that fence, I guess will be done shortly anyway. There was concern about it getting overgrown. So,
Is this in and around the building site?
yes, because the normal maintenance person hasn't been allowed in behind the fencing because it's considered unsafe. So it was getting very unruly. And I guess there's going to be the Anzac parade, which will be coming up all around that area very soon. There was concern that that area was going to be looking untidy for that. The bridge, the archway is right beside the Coronation Library. Just to make sure that that wasn't the case. So shall I just do a CSR? Can we follow that up a bit more? Because there's a deadline, I guess.
Yeah.
What do we do there?
I mean, CSR is never a bad idea,
So yeah, I'll just do that as well.
but also the hope, I guess, would be that if anyone comes out with an update, that might have a sequence of timing that would allow.
Yes, so can we just maybe, if there's any communication going through towards, yeah, just to say that there was concern about the area being tidy for Anzac Parade.
So the maintenance staff always have Anzac Day on their schedule to make sure that things are looking spick and span.
Right.
But I do one anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is part of the annual thing.
Sure.
And it may be just worth noting on it that you understand that it's restricted access area.
Restricted,
Building,
yes,
but,
yeah.
You know, special service.
And that's
Yeah.
good advice, thank you. I think that's encouraging. Oh, I can probably talk to Penny about that afterwards. Update innovation progress. Broadway. No, that's me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Kathy.
Just a casual observation on Saturday in Littleton, we had all these bikes, so the cyclists came in outside the coffee shop, they just laid their bikes where the car park spaces were. And I thought, I think they're making a statement here, maybe there's not enough bike parking thing.
Did you take photos?
I should have,
Yeah.
but it was quite, I think it was pretty obvious, because I saw a post a few days earlier saying cyclists should make a statement that, you know, they need to be respected on the roads and things. So I thought that was quite a good thing there after the market. Another one is the Business Association Project Littleton volunteers are doing their third rubbish hunt on March the 12th. And they'll have 2 sites set up, maybe at Corsia Bay and in the port. And I guess from a business perspective, it was, let's, you know, show Littleton is so nice and tidy, ready for say GP. And from the volunteers' perspective and the community is to say that, you know, maybe if we're picking up so much rubbish, a better collection service, or, you know, why are people littering so much or something. But yeah, that would be. And Casper had a beach picnic and a barbecue on Saturday afternoon, and that was a huge success.
Nice.
And they're very grateful to the funding they get from council.
Summer with your neighbours. That one would have been.
Yes,
Yeah.
they just sprayed it out and yeah.
Yeah.
and it's
Technically, it
from
would have been
from the
working with your
board.
neighbours, because
Oh, the
we are
yeah.
there. But I'm sure we're allowed to retain the fund. Yes.
They do
Excellent.
great stuff with the kids and the activities, and always try to say, you know, pick up rubbish, keep your beach clean and that sort of stuff. It's incorporated, but yeah.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Just a few things about Wainuki Resident Association. I went and met Nikki, the president, a while back. I think I sent an email to the members, and I followed back with them, asking them to report a CSR, you know, on the issues they had. So they are going to do that. One question that they asked, and I didn't know the answer, was there was a defibrillator which was used. So, and then after it is used once, you cannot use the pads again. So who does that? Who would install those? And because the batteries go flat after a couple of years as well.
So
So I had no idea.
Community.
yeah, it really depends. There's different Often an individual or a local business will take responsibility for getting a unit there.
It was a unit in the building,
In which building?
in old school building.
Right.
You know, that is their office.
Yeah. So it really depends who's responsible for the unit, because
Yeah, so they asked, you know, I have no idea. So.
The old school at.
in the winery.
Why not so just
Use it for the community.
Yeah.
Oh, the community centre.
community center?
Oh, sure, the winery community, yeah, well, that would be their association would be responsible for that. They will have raised some money, they may have got some money from the board towards buying that defib, but so that's the association, they would be the owners of it.
Okay,
And there should be on the unit, there should be the instructions of who's provided it and where replacement pieces come from. I guess a question for staff would be, is that something that community associations or residents associations could apply for some small support from us to provide? So they could get some DRF to.
Well,
fund.
to fund the purchase in the first place. Most of them.
Yeah,
And
so
that's
to
just
get it there,
another-
but also if they need consumables.
Yeah.
Potentially have those
Sure.
provided.
most of the outer base, they have got defib, but not the eastern base. And I was actually thinking that if it is possible to install a defib at the cab stand where someone can access the Hickory can, Long Bay, Goffs Bay, Power Bay, all those bays can access. It's kind of a centralized location. Would be really good to have that.
Yeah.
Yesterday I did Friends course in Timaru for 2 days, and that was the critical element. They said that the 15 minutes, if you're far away from defib, saving lives,
Interesting.
saving goes down by 25%.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the best way for that to happen is for that to be a community ask of the
Community
board,
ask.
rather than the board putting them in places.
Okay.
If the community asks for them, because then there's also an ownership and a knowledge of where they are, it comes from the community.
Okay.
And it's the best place for them, and then we can potentially support them through the area.
Okay, just the final comment about infrastructure. We have up to Le Bons, now we have got mobile coverage since January, and there is no mobile coverage from Hickory onwards, all the eastern bays. And we have seen the infrastructure damage due to Cyclone Gabriella up north. So is there any alternative way that could be explored in those areas that provide access in emergencies? Like some sort of comm system?
Satellite phones?
Yeah.
That seems to be the.
They were promised to the Eastern Bay some years.
Yeah, they were, but it's nothing good has come out of that. So could we as a board ask to follow up on that, because still
They've had a lot of service outages up there recently, and they're a bit worried because, you know, they're losing the copper cable sort of
they have
network,
still,
so they're worried
still our
about,
neighbors has got no cell phone.
So
Sorry,
we'll
no
check into
landline.
that,
And us as well, same.
So that was an outcome from after the December 21, and there was follow-up done on that. Of course, the providers are not the council, and I'm not sure where that got to. Robin Arnold was working with that, but I'd have to find out what the latest progress on that was. But I'm pretty sure that we had done what we needed to, and then the bill was passed, or the baton was passed. I think back to community from remembering.
Yeah, so I guess it's potentially is a little similar to the defib situation, where it's tricky because there is a timeline of plan for connectivity across all of Aotearoa, but obviously it's prioritised. We don't know necessarily on what.
So
but maybe the initiative needs to come from the community to potentially call for support for something like Starlink, so that there's an interim solution until those networks are enabled across, no pun intended, until those networks are made available across the rest of the peninsula.
Yeah. So the issue was raised by the community, and then there was a response by the council, and the understanding was that the infrastructure upgrade that will happen would solve these problems. And it has happened, and this is the result. Claiborne's were on top of Hickory, those hilly areas, they can get some signals, but not from there.
They're incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was never, sorry, the eastern, but the southern bays were never on the rural connectivity, what's it called, the Rural Broadband Initiative, the government's initiative. They were never on that plan.
Yes, I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
So probably what happens there is that there's a spreadsheet somewhere that works out topographical area and population and then prioritises how towers will be rolled out. I'm not saying it's right, but even if this is the case, but I imagine that's how it works. So in communities like some of our Eastern Bays communities where there's a lot of space and not many people, it's going to fall to the bottom of the prioritised list of who needs to be serviced with connectivity.
Even though they're the ones that need it the most.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we'll race through community. Then, yeah, it will be a good place.
Squeaky wheel.
And I think also having more than one plan.
Yeah.
So having, yes, we want connectivity because it's our writing, we just definitely need it as a community.
Yeah.
But also going, until we get there, we'll find an interim solution that could be something like that.
One solution, it was very helpful. Paul Devlin at the time, he handed a device, which was two-way communication device that we could, that was being monitored by Paul Devlin, and that we could send a text to Paul, and that worked really well in between that time.
It's like a satellite phone.
It was satellite, not it was not voice, but it was just
Like a
text.
pager.
Yeah, like some sort of pager.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's like a minimum viable product.
Yes, minimum, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had a visit from one of the guy, Andrew Kirk from Civil Defense, and he agreed to something like that as well. He visited these areas, and he said that would be his recommendation as well.
Yeah.
So while we get some Starlink connection somehow, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a really important issue. You know,
Yeah.
it really is. And we've had public forums from people affected by that, whether we realise you are left in no doubt as to how important it is in every aspect of health and well-being. Luana?
Kia ora koutou. Not too much to report on this week. I have been a bit out of touch for the last 6 weeks, so my apologies for that. Diamond Harbour community having an intense night, which I'm hoping to attend. Same issues. We're races, encouraging people to report to 105 police line. I think I hold the record on that. I'm not sure where they go. They seem to go into the ether, so it would be good to actually get some information on. Doesn't anything tangible.
Set up a phone bank.
Yeah. Currently, I know that there's speed testing being done through Littleton and Cass Bay, which will hopefully yield some statistics on the number of speeding drivers. I know that's been done before in the last few years. Again, nothing really came from that. It seems to hit a wall in terms of we can't do this because of the type of road we have. So some really good solutions around that. What can we actually do with the information, because it seems to really not go anywhere. Auckland Bradley Park, we've got a planning meeting coming up at the end of the month, which will be really good. We've got some really good ideas around how we can utilise the park and generate some income from that. Went to Sessions on the Point, Diamond Harbour. They had their last one, only because my daughter, I've been to a few, but my daughter was performing at that one. Some really, I really some conversations around development of the old site. So that's really exciting. People seem really excited about that. Did notice with Sale GP coming up, I know one of the questions was around public amenities with people travelling. My concern is that there are going to be an influx of people coming through before the cut-off in the morning, and how they're going to use public services. And I know that there was no intention to put more toilets around there, but it is quite an important issue, especially when you've got
Whereabouts?
children. Through Diamond Harbour.
Oh yeah, I had the same request. Yeah.
Something else. Oh yes, I just want to thank my fellow community board members, Taiwan and Ruben. Also the council and chorus, who came around to Rākaihautū a few weeks ago regarding one of the issues that I raised about the water pipes and chorus. So that's been attended to at the moment. So that's great. We haven't had any burst pipes in the last few weeks. And I think chorus is out there today, setting up and relaying the cable. So thank you.
I was going through Rapaki last night, and I would have thought that they would have been dealing with the. So they're going to leave that to after sale GP, presumably the big pipe indectomy that they were. Oh, was it? Oh, rightio.
Yeah,
Oh, that'll be it.
The
So
chorus
geez,
cable's still.
we're working quickly this week.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, we
Well,
gone by the 10th, was the word.
well, that was yeah.
So there was a sign saying traffic lights this morning, but they
Yeah.
were literally sitting them up.
Yeah. Done a chat with him when I get home.
Very nice to be back at the table.
Oh, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, just a few things. I guess Akaroa has been very, very busy. It's had a pretty strong season, and
Good.
which is a very, very interesting swing when with the a lot of tours coming through with bus tours, with international tourists.
From cruise ships?
No,
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
virtually nothing, but there's a lot of land-based tours. So there is still a bit of a bus issue, but it's minimal. It's opened up the town for locals to come over from Christchurch. There's a lot of those coming, and trailer parking down there was a huge problem. They were all out. I've got photos of them all parked along the roadside and on the grass verge coming into Akaroa, which I don't see as a problem, but it just shows how many people are coming here. And the use of that beach down there that I asked to be cleaned 3 times leading into Christmas was not cleaned. And I would really like to see some sort of a maintenance and, I guess, focus on the visitor experience and the beach, main beach too. That was not raked up. There's still wooden plots and all of those beaches right through summer, and they were very heavily used. I can send some photos through on that. Taonga. For Anuku, I started a conversation about 18 months ago about recording all the Anuku taonga. It's sort of a connectivity project with Takapaniki, because it was spread all over the place, and it settled for, it got funding, Anuku got funding, and Ariana Tikau drove this project over the last 18 months of getting all this taonga recorded, and it was had a weekend out at the marae where we had all this taonga taken into the marae and put on exhibited, and several of us spoke about some of the early artifacts and where they were found and why the importance of recording that, because it's all part of that bigger story. I thought it was an amazing process, because I would have started with a conversation and then it escalated, and we took the whānau, went out on the harbour, did a tour of the harbour, and a few of us spoke about the early sites. And it's just trying to connect all that through. And we spoke about the Britomart and what that stood for, and it was all part of that story about the Treaty of Waitangi being signed by Tamati Tikau and Poni Tikau in 1840, and then 3 months later, the flag being flown on that Britomart Memorial. And I'm really, really very supportive, as is Anuku, of getting some sort of RMC or something working for that park. And I know we don't want another RMC, but how are we going to get that going? I guess is a question going forward.
Landscape plan.
Hmm?
Landscape plan.
Yes, that landscape plan. There's been a lot of work done on it, a lot of documentation around it that's set up the backstory.
Can I ask a question? How long's the exhibition on for with the taonga in the marae?
Oh, it was just the one day.
Was it one day?
Yeah. But there is going to be a Takapaniki exhibition coming on in the museum in a few months.
Okay.
And anyone that wants to go out there and have a bit of a tour too. And that should be part of our bus tour.
Good point. Yes, thank you.
Takapaniki car park is underway, and that's going to be, the plans are fantastic. There's going to be a toilet block there. There's going to be bus parking, and it's going to go around in a circle and come out, because traffic management is a big problem around in that area.
not much area to work around there.
No, but the plans will be coming to the board and have been all okay. They're all go, and that looks really, really good. So they'll be coming to the board soon. I went to the first meeting, Takapatini meeting last week. Harvest room cancelled. I thought that was a really bit weird because we're talking about pollution of the harbour and where's the evidential stuff around the contamination?
Yeah. It's been a big summer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a problem or isn't it?
Well, I mean,
It's not just the harbour, it's the harbour, but it's also the Pātaka River at the moment, which has got some pretty intense warnings on not going anywhere near it, not the dogs near it.
Yeah, we're talking about the Wai River there, aren't you?
In the city where it comes in, feeds in from the east.
Oh, okay.
and we've had problems in Littleton Harbour as well. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Seems a bit of a
after
shame.
It was after a rainfall though, wasn't it?
Was it a rainfall event? Well, that's what I was trying to get my head around. Okay.
Yeah.
That's about all for me, I think. Yeah, but I really do. I think with the destination management plan, it's tracking along reasonably well. And I'm attending that first one. Also put some names out for others to be involved. I think that seems to be progressing pretty well. I just really still want to see the final outcome, and may it be good. And obviously focusing on visitor experience as part of that. Therefore, we need to look and review some of the maintenance areas around that impact on those visitor experiences going forward.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in no particular order, so Birdlings Flat had a chlorination shot. Was it last week? Was it last week?
Yeah.
So to get you up to speed on the story, there was a lot of work that we did a few months ago, just around sort of protecting the water supply at Birdlings Flat from chlorination. So staff found a total coliform in the water supply and some other bits and pieces. So worked in with the community, mostly seamlessly, but not entirely. I won't go into too much detail there, but just to do a temporary chlorination there. So we're just keeping an eye on that. So just to keep you all up to speed with that, with the full intention is to keep that water supply free of chlorine, working very closely with the community there. Annual plan draft was signed off approved by council last week. So what are the main concerns from our point of view? So the main challenges, probably there were a few things deferred, a few projects, head-to-head funding, but that's, the board can submit on that and the community can submit on that, and some other water projects around the peninsula, but we'll see how that sort of falls in this in the consultation period. Another thing that council did last week was sign off plan change 14. That's been pretty controversial for Christchurch. So that's mandating higher density in some key neighbourhoods around Christchurch. What does that mean for Banks Peninsula? Not a huge amount. It means a little bit for Littleton. But there are these things called qualifying matters that sort of are really sort of things that would prevent high intensity development happening in Littleton, because it would restrict sunlight or lots of different things going on there. So I'm feeling, we'll see how it plays out, but Littleton's really the only part of this ward that's affected by that in any way at this stage. John Jameson Lookout, so the Summit Road Society have been building the fundraising and constructing the John Jameson Lookout. So that's the lookout that overlooks Littleton Harbour, just opposite the sign of the Bellbird. Yeah. So that's been all zhushed up, so to make it much more pleasant for the public. So that's just about to open, and we made a contribution. This board made a contribution to that, and it's actually in our ward. So go and check it out sometimes. That's pretty cool. Yeah. I'm now a trustee on the Rod Donald Trust, so we've just been working through strategic plan there. It's got a new manager, you might have heard of him, called Andrew Turner. So that's kind of looking at some new projects and how they can support things like the Little River Rail Trail and head-to-head walkway. So that's kind of still just a play out, but there's certainly a desire for the trust there to support the board and the communities and that sort of thing. You may or may not have noticed that there was a submissions period for a feedlot development in Kaituna Valley that closed on Friday. That's obviously a very hot topic and a lot of community involvement there. So we'll just see how that plays out. Well, a lot of community interest. The Maida Hotel. I just want to reassure the board that there is a lot of work going on that behind the scenes. I don't want to say too much, but like things are certainly happening. So just to reassure you, just in case anybody asks you, there is some work there between council staff and the property owner. So I'm happy with the process there, although it might not be evident to the public that there are things happening. There are definitely things happening. Moepuku Peninsula, the logging, there's some community concern there from a water safety perspective, but also by the damage caused by the logging trucks that use the road. So, you know, people are a little bit worried about that. So that's sort of, there's been some correspondence about that lately. Asif's mentioned the Le Bons Bay thing. So that's, yep. SailGP, probably don't need to talk about that. Luana mentioned concerns about traffic management on the far side of Whakaraupo. So, well, yeah, I mean, I feel pretty confident that it's gonna go okay. They've got very good people working on that, so you know that'll play out how it plays out. Rāpaki don't need to talk about. Dyers Colombo roundabout. So you might not think that affects us, but of course that is so do you know where I'm talking about? The intersection of Dyers Pass, Centaurus Road and Colombo Street. So I was doing some on the ground research today about traffic movements from our ward into there. And within a half an hour period, I counted 118 cars heading for that over Dyers Pass. So they won't all go through that roundabout, but most will. So that's something of huge interest. That was actually supposed to go before the Cashmere Sprayed and Heathcote board today. I think I've got that right, is it? Cashmere Sprayed and Heathcote. But that's been deferred for a month before they make a decision on that, because that board wants to sort of understand the impacts a little bit better. So there's probably an opportunity for us just to communicate that back to our communities, just because, you know, they are affected, particularly in Diamond Harbour and Governor's Bay, affected by the outcome there. Anything cruise ships, you might handle that, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a little bit of cruise ships.
Yeah, do you want me to? I'll let you go with the cruise ships. I don't need to talk about that. I think that's me.
No, and you're a governor on Akaroa.
Oh yes. There's so many things there. Apologies. Yes, we had a pōwhiri at Rāpaki last Monday. Yes, the governance team for Whakaora Healthy Harbour, of which that's me and representative from ECAN, one from Naita, one from Yvette Couch Lewis, of course, from Rāpaki, and one from LPC. Yeah, so it's good. Look forward to doing some good work there.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. It was busy.
Wedding picture.
Yeah. There was only one. There was a wedding picture. So just some quick updates from me. The first is really to acknowledge the great work of staff based on some of those immediate concerns on cruise ship impacts in Littleton, and there's been some really quick work from council staff and also from some, not all, but some cruise ship operators on minimising the disruption that particularly those early morning commuters have been experiencing on transport or on our buses. So one of the cruise lines is holding back its passengers until 1 AM so that the peak commute period isn't disrupted. And all of the shuttle services coming back from the city in the afternoon and now just travelling directly down Norwich, which is a state highway, and on the wharf rather than travelling people through residential areas who weren't getting off the buses anyway, so they're just causing disruption to residents. So
I've been working so hard on that, eh? Like, it's really, you know,
so it's excellent to see how quickly those concerns that come to us can be raised in that forum and then can be acted on. And you know, the aspects can be resolved. The other thing that I think we should be really aware of as a board and should share with Christchurch NZ is the incredible amount of work that volunteers have put into welcoming visitors to Littleton, and whether or not any of us as individuals or even some of those volunteers or local residents approve of their method of transportation in they asked for our visitors and their visitors to Littleton and their visitors to the city. And those volunteers have made sure that they receive the kind of welcome that we would like to receive when we ourselves travel around the world to other cities and other things. So I think the work they've done has been a real credit. And towards the end of the season, I think the board should be involved in formally acknowledging and thanking them. Not saying necessarily that we should have to pay for it. Maybe there would be a affiliated association or a
Well, similarly, the sort of thing happened in
Akaroa. But I think the board could orchestrate something like that happening to acknowledge that those people have put on behalf of our city, put in on behalf of our city. And then the other things are destination management plan, which has been a really good place to direct people to get involved who've raised some of their immediate concerns around cruise ships, but also just observations around things that they think are important in their community and our community. Sail GP is worth looking at the site every day because stuff is happening so quickly down there.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and the really great element of that is people will often say critically, oh, that's only happening because of Sail GP, but things like lighting, footpaths, cliff retention, new roads,
been playing for years,
will all be left behind when Sail GP. So the legacy that that event has created for Littleton is fantastic, and I think we can be very happy with that as a side effect of hosting a huge international event. The other is we have our delayed election for our Wiramo Reserve Committee coming up, Littleton Reserve Committee coming up next week, and I've had a lot of contact from people in the community who want to get involved in that committee and who use that reserve for one thing or another, or enjoy that reserve for one thing or another, and really want to be part of steering its future. So I think that will be a really good and really high participation election for the others and members in the world. So that's everything from me. So on that basis, we're standing for our closing karakia.
Gotta find that again.
Page 39.
Oh, okay.
Everyone got it down?
Unu here, ki te unu tapanui, kia wātia, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, I te ara tākata. Koera I rongo, whakainia, ake ki runga, kia tina, hui e tākia.
So that's the end of our public streams meeting. I think we'll turn the switch off.
I've had that for a while. I know it's very similar to yours.